Hey guys, so in my previous video, I talked about social catalysts and the social contract. Now, I'm going to be talking about patient rights. That's a right, and that's a left. So, why do we have rights in the first place? There are actually so many theories saying whether or not someone should have a right. For example, there's one theory that says as long as someone can feel pain or pleasure, that someone has rights. There's another theory that says as long as someone is self-aware, is sentient, then that someone should have rights. Another one, which is kind of scary, says that as long as someone is valued in society, that someone has rights. There's another theory that says anyone can have rights as long as they have needs, because having needs automatically entitles them to their right. Need for food, the need for clothing, shelter, the need for actualization, and the need for a place in society is what causes a person to have rights. I personally believe that everything that God created has a place in this world and therefore deserves some degree of respect. Humans most especially, because the Bible says that humans were created in God's very image and likeness. By that fact alone, humans deserve respect because of this intrinsic dignity that is present in everyone. Now, you can all choose your own theories to believe, but that's what I believe. Now, before I go on, I have to note that whenever a physician takes care of his patient, he's supposed to remember 4 core things. First, non-maleficence. Second, beneficence. Third, justice. And fourth, respect for patient's autonomy. First, non-maleficence. Do no harm. Remember always that your objective is to help the patient and not actually cause further damage to whatever the patient's already going through. Second, beneficence. How can you help the patient? That should be your end goal above anything else. Third, justice. Remember that all the resources should be allocated fairly to the ones who need it most. Finally, respect for patient autonomy. Respect the patient's right to decide after you have educated him and given him all of his alternatives. With that, here's the list of patients' rights as declared by the World Medical Assembly in 2005 and reaffirmed in 2015. The patient has the right to good quality medical care. The patient has a right to freedom of choice. The patient has a right to self-determination. The patient has a right to a legal representative if he's unconscious or legally incompetent. The patient has a right against procedures against his will, except in life-threatening cases. The patient has a right to information. The patient has a right to confidentiality. The patient has a right to health education. The patient has a right to dignity. And the patient has a right to choose religious assistance. In the Philippines, these rights are not yet actually fully instated into law. The law only goes so far as to say in Article 13, Sections 11 through 13, that the state should adopt an integrative and comprehensive approach to health development, that there should be an effective food and drug regulatory program, and there should be a special agency for disabled people. But a formal Magna Carta has not yet been passed into law. In 2013, Senator Pia Cayetano wrote a Magna Carta detailing individual and social rights of patients, and this has yet to be passed. Now, the rights declared by the World Medical Assembly can be considered moral rights. Moral rights are de facto rights of the patient, regardless of whether or not these are legal. However, if a right is formally instated into law, it is a legal right, and it is recognized by a person's government. These are de jure rights. Off the top of my head, in a hypothetical scenario, if you live in a country where they allow people with a wage below a certain level to steal from rich people, it's a legal thing. It's a legal right, but it's not necessarily moral. At the same time, in a country where a certain religious belief is not allowed, your right to practice religious freedom might not be legal, but it is still a moral right. Always remember that even if something is legal, it might not be moral. At the same time, even if something might be moral, it might not be legal. Now, in addition to moral and legal rights, there are also negative and positive rights. Negative rights include respect for someone's autonomy and ability to make his own choices, or respect for someone's decision to choose religious assistance. Negative right is simply the ability of someone to make their own decisions on matters without any interference. A negative right is also called a libertarian right because you're giving patient liberty to make his own decisions. A positive right, or an egalitarian right, on the other hand, is providing something, giving something to the patient so that conditions are met for the patient to make correct decisions. This includes access to quality health care, access to medications, health care in times of need. Now, positive rights are particularly difficult, more difficult to provide to patients than negative rights. Why? Because these involve allocation of resources. These involve making a proactive decision to give something to patients. And not everybody might agree with this. All the citizens pay for taxes, but not all the citizens would agree to certain things that are being implemented. In a hypothetical scenario, for example, where a government says that patients have a right to access marijuana in times when they are in extreme, excruciating pain. I'm sure that not everybody would agree to that. Some people will say, I don't want my taxes to go into this program. Also, it's going to be extremely hard to regulate, especially in a country like the Philippines. Whom are you going to distribute it to? How are you going to distribute it? Who is going to get access? Is it going to be regulated properly so that people only use it as a pain reliever and not as something to abuse? I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for that on both sides, but hey, I didn't say that I approve or I disapprove of the thing. In fact, I'm still kind of on the fence. My point is, positive rights, not everyone will agree to it. Any good doctor will make sure that their patient's rights are met above all else. Remember that the patient is not just a human being with a disease, but the patient is a person with dignity. And that, above all else, has to be respected. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please stay in tune for my next video, which will be about brain death. See you soon! A positive... Well, what's happening? Hey guys, so in my previous video, I talked about... Oh, they're still there! In a hypothetical scenario where the government says that marijuana is... Well, still down. Wait. There are 4 things that a physician are always supposed to remember. Grammar! I need a new camera.